Hey everybody, welcome to Whole Brain Teaching. My name is Sarah Meador. I'm the Associate Director of Whole Brain Teaching. I have not been kidnapped. I'm just in my basement office, which looks scary, but don't be scared. I'm really excited. We're going to pull in Weston today. Weston, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Weston Lamb Costantino. My whole brain teaching nickname is The Bear. I am a gold certified music teacher here in Wyoming.
Awesome. Weston and I are so excited today to come and talk to you about whole brain teaching gestures. So we've got Joanna who is monitoring comments today. I'm going to go ahead and click my button and we will definitely do some questions and comments. But if you're joining us live or if you're joining us from the replay, go ahead and just let us know in the comments where you're from and what grade you teach. So I see Dawn and Lakedra, two awesome staff members, are already in and viewing. So thank you for joining. Lots of great staff members and resources so that even if you're watching the replay, you can get your questions answered. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Weston and I are going to model the magic circle of whole brain teaching. So Weston, let's jump in. Class?
Yes.
Good. So Whole Brain Teaching has a new book that came out. It is the second edition. It's on Amazon. Nice job, Weston, showing you his copy. And all of this information and much, much more is in that book and on our website. With Whole Brain Teaching, you know, everything is free. So you can learn everything on the website, but the book is such a great place to learn more information too. So we're talking about the magic circle today. Class.
Yes, yes.
Mere words.
Mere words.
Today,
we're talking about
using gestures.
With
whole brain teaching. Mirrors off. So if you're new to whole brain teaching, the magic circle is the way to get 100% engagement from your students with whatever you're teaching. It includes using all areas of the brain where students are seeing, they're hearing, they're talking, they're emotionally connecting with the silliness and the fun, all to get that 100% engagement and more retention. But we're going to focus in on this part of the magic circle right here, which is for direct instruction. And we're going to use silent mirrors for a lot of this, which means I'm going to be talking and gesturing, and Weston is not going to be talking, but he is going to be gesturing. This is just a different version of mirrors where you can still get that 100% engagement from your students. So with direct instruction, the key here with the magic circle is that you are only going to teach one new point at a time, and you're going to repeat that one new point twice. And when you do that, your students will be repeating your words and gestures just like we were in the beginning. Let's give a real example of the whole magic circle with that key point. And let's pretend we're starting a unit on fractions. So we're going to jump right in with that. Class.
Yes.
Mere words. Today. We're learning about fractions. This is a fraction.
A fraction.
Mirrors off. And then I would have my students teach their neighbors using that teach okay to finish up that circle and really assess them to see if they're ready for the next step or not. That's the key. But what do you do in that direct instruction piece? That's what we're going to really dig into today. And in Coach's new book, in the second edition of Whole Brain Teaching for Challenging Kids, we're talking about chapter 6. And this is the chapter that really digs into what the magic circle is and how to use all of it. But within that direct instruction piece, we always get a lot of teachers with questions about what kind of gestures you do and how does that all work. And that's what we're going to focus in on today. So we're going to dig in on 3 really key tips to using gestures in that direct instruction piece. So the first big tip is that less is more. The first big tip is less is more. Weston, I'm going to hand it off to you. Would you teach us the first big tip in using gestures in whole brain teaching? Go.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Class.
Yes.
Thank you, class.
You're welcome, Weston.
Mere words.
The first
big tip
is less
is more. The first
big tip
is less
is
more.
Mirrors off. Let's give Weston a big 10-finger woo. Even if you're sitting at home watching the replay, he can feel it all the way from where you're at, especially from our Facebook users, 2nd grade in Colorado. He can feel your 10-finger woo all the way from Colorado. So with this, we have a lot of teachers that think they have to come up with a gesture for every single word that they're talking about. And you do not have to do that. That you only really need to come up with one gesture for each minute of instruction. And remember, each minute of instruction is one new point. That's it. So come up with one gesture that you want to use for that instructional piece, that concept. And here's something that I always think in my head. If I think in my head, all right, we're going to talk about this concept, whatever that concept might be. And this is the concept or the fact or the idea that I want to teach my students. So I want you all, if you're live, you can't do this on the replay, but if you're live, I want you to think about right now, what is one word that you teach your students, one concept that you teach your students? And before you put it in the comments, I want you to also think about a kid-friendly definition. So ask yourself, right, what is a word that I want to teach my students? And what is a kid-friendly definition? So we have the word, and typically that word has a huge definition. There's a lot of, finesse that goes into teaching that word, but we're going to really break it down into just a kid-friendly definition. So if I were going to teach about fractions, I would say, all right, I'm going to teach about fraction. What is a fraction? What do I want to pop in my students' head when they hear the word fraction? And it might be a number that is parts of a whole. So a number that is parts of a whole. It's real short, not very many words. We'll dig into the finesse later, but I want the word and the kid-friendly definition of that word, short and sweet. So if you're watching this live video right now, I want you to put in the comments, what is a word and its kid-friendly definition that you teach in your classroom, your content, your subject, your grade level? What is the word and kid-friendly definition? Ooh, Patricia, I love it. Main idea is the most important thought. I've got some Facebook users, and where we are using StreamYard, so there is a link you can click if you want your name to be shown in our videos. It will be shown on Facebook, but if you don't want it shown in the videos, that's okay too. Nouns, a person, place, or thing. Multiplication is equal groups. Habitat, an animal's home. Oh, Jennifer, I love that one. Let's go with that one, because off the top of my head, I can't think of a gesture that I've used for habitat before. So that's new to me, and that's what I was looking for, is some word, some concept that's new to me. And I want to show you my process for coming up with that gesture for that word. So what I would do is I'd literally close my eyes and I would think, all right, habitat. An animal's home. Habitat, an animal's home. And I think, what is one movement that I could do to represent not the word, but the definition? You want to represent the definition of the word with that gesture. So Weston, on the count of 3, you and I are both going to come up with and show the gesture that we just came up with in our heads. So on the count of 3, I want you to show what gesture you just popped in your head for habitat. When you thought of a habitat is an animal's home. 1, 2, 3. This is what I did. Oh, and you did this. I love that. So home to me means this. It's their home. And you did this, which is like a physical representation of home. I love that. What I just did with you is exactly what I do with my students. I say to my students, all right, I don't know what this gesture is we could use, so I'm going to repeat that word and that kid-friendly definition multiple times. I'm going to say the word, I'm going to say the definition. Say the word, say the definition. And on the count of 3, everybody's going to do the gesture. And I'd say, oh, Weston, I love that gesture. This is now our gesture for habitat. So every time we use the word habitat, we're going to do this gesture. Class?
Yes.
Mere words.
Mere words.
A habitat.
A habitat
is an animal's home.
Is an animal's home.
An animal's home.
An animal's home
is a habitat.
Is a habitat.
Mirrors off.
Mirrors off.
Now you'll notice in that example, I really only did one gesture. This one. And that's because the second tip for using gestures is there are actually two different kinds of gestures. One is social gestures. Social gestures is what we're doing right now, where we're just making it up as we go along. And there's no rhyme or reason. They're just hand movements that are great for getting 100% engagement. But the second kind of gestures, these are memory gestures. These are gestures that connect that word and that kid-friendly definition together. So our memory gesture for habitat, Weston, show it to me. What is it? That's right. This is a habitat. So the second tip is to try to focus on memory gestures more than other things. Now, we'll talk about the differences between younger grades and upper grades later, but let's do a big review. So class.
Yes.
Mere words.
Mere words.
Tip number one.
Less is more.
You don't need a gesture.
You don't need a gesture.
For every single word. Tip number two. There's social gestures. And memory gestures. Focus on the memory gestures. Tip number one. Less is more. Tip number two. Memory gestures. Mirrors off. So when we came up with that gesture for the word habitat, we were using memory gestures. We were coming up with some kind of movement that we're going to do every time we say that word. And that is tip number three. Tip number three is repetition. Mere words. Tip number three. Use the gesture. Every time you say the word. Talking about a habitat. Use the gesture for habitat. Mirrors off. You can also use it as a great way to review. Yesterday, everybody, we learned about a habitat. Everybody show me right now, what is our gesture for habitat? And I start going a little slowly to help remind them. And boom, before you know it, everybody in the class is showing that gesture for habitat. And then I could say, all right, teach your neighbor, what is a habitat? I say teach, and they say habitat is a home, because now I've connected that word and that definition together with that gesture, which also helps to check for comprehension. So, Weston, let's do it one more time. Oh, classity class.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Weston.
You're welcome. Sarah.
Mere words. Tip number one. Less is more. Tip number two. Focus on memory gestures. Tip number three. Repetition. Use that gesture every time you say the word. Good. Mirrors off. Now, actually, before we go on to our next point, I'm just going to look through and see if there's any comments or questions that people have that we need to talk about. And thank you so much, Joanna, for posting the link in the comments to that second edition where you can learn all about the magic circle. So let's see. Oh, Jennifer, welcome from Illinois. Oh, that's sweet. And Jennifer says you came to an in-person training last August. You want to know if there's any other Montessori teachers. So if you're a Montessori teacher and you want to connect with Jennifer, go ahead and do so in the comments. That's awesome. Let's see. During direct instruction. Oh, Joanna, that's from you. That's awesome. And Joanna's doing such a great job of kind of reposting big points in the comments. So those of you that are watching the replay, you can go back and look that too. Love it. Let's see. Ooh, lots of good words here too. Ooh, melody is the tune of a song. Lakidra, I should have done that one. I'm a music girl. So many good. And this could be a whole second video just coming up, helping people come up with gestures from all of the comments. Mary says, I love the words and social gestures and memory gestures. Less is definitely more. Thank you, Mary. That's awesome. All right, so let's move forward and let's talk about tips for different grade levels. Weston, tell us, what grade level do you teach?
I teach primary kindergarten all the way through third grade.
primary kindergarten all the way through third grade. So you're at that bottom end and I was at that upper end. So we're going to talk about tips for both. And then Weston, I'm going to come to you to give your tips as well. But we're going to start in the upper grades. And this could be, you might be a third grade teacher thinking, I need those tips for upper grades, because anytime your kids think they are just too cool for school, we need to pull them back in. So here are a couple tips. First, use what we said where your students come up with gestures, where you say, all right, everybody, I'm having trouble coming up with this gesture for this word. Here's the word. Here's the kid-friendly definition. Say it over and over, repeat it, which is adding that repetition to it, and then have them come up with it. And sometimes in my super sneaky teacher way, I might already know what gesture I want to use, but I'll still have the kids come up with it, because that's a really high level thinking skill to come up with a gesture. And I'd say, oh, I love that gesture right there. And then go back into the one that I was planning on doing. This is our gesture for a fraction. And so I'm pulling them in. Nobody knows who I picked, but I still got that student input in there as well. And the second is to use more magic mirrors. Weston and I today have been using a lot of silent mirrors, and that's where I can talk a little bit longer. He's moving his hands around. He's doing the gestures. Magic mirrors is a little different. Weston, we're going to do magic mirrors now. Magic mirrors, whoop.
Magic mirrors, whoop.
Which means now, and you can do it any way you want. How I always do it is I continue talking. Students don't repeat my words, but they do come up with gestures while they're talking. So they're talking and have to come up with gestures all on their own. And notice how when I talk smaller and I kind of point out different words that I'm saying, it helps the students come up with better, bigger, funner, oh yeah, I used it, funner gestures. That's magic mirrors. So when you have your students use magic mirrors, they're coming up with those all on their own. Mirrors off. Mirrors off. And the third tip for upper grades is to do student-led lessons. Have your students standing up, saying class, saying mirror words, and doing all of those gestures all on their own. Tips for lower grades is to use more social gestures than upper grades. Upper grades almost completely focuses on memory gestures. If I stood up in front of my 8th graders and I said, mirror words, today we're going to learn about habitats, they would look at me like I had 3 eyes and had lost my mind. But in lower grades, you can say, today we're going to learn about, and your students repeat it with you. So more social gestures are great for lower grades to really slow things down and pull in that 100% engagement. And with lower grades, you want to use a lot more variation in your voice so that you can do a lot more repetition. Let me show you. Class.
Yes.
Thank you, Weston.
You're welcome, Sarah.
Mere words.
Mere words.
Habitats.
Habitats.
Our homes.
Our homes.
For animals.
For animals.
Habitats.
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 Our homes.
Our homes.
For big animals.
For big animals.
And small animals.
And small animals.
Habitats.
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 Mirrors off.
Mirrors off.
I really only said one thing, and I repeated it over and over and over, but because I did it with variation, it felt a little new and different every time. My favorite story Coach tells is about Pac-Man and how every level in Pac-Man, the only difference is the background is a different color. That's literally the only difference, but every level feels new and feels different, and that's awesome. So, mirror words.
Mirror words.
Lower grades.
Lower grades.
More repetition.
More repetition.
More variation.
More variation.
More social gestures.
More social gestures.
Upper grades.
Upper grades.
More memory gestures.
More memory gestures.
More magic mirrors.
More magic mirrors.
More student-led lessons.
More student-led lessons.
Mirrors off.
Mirrors off.
Now, none of that means that you can't do any of these things in pre-K or high school. In pre-K, teachers lecture. In high school, teachers lecture. But how they do it looks different. And that's what we say in whole brain teaching too. Whole brain teaching can be done from pre-K all the way up through high school and through college. It only varies in how you give it to your students, the same way that lecture can be done very boringly most of the time, but in pre-K all the way up through high school. The variation is how it's presented. So Weston, I'm going to throw it off to you, and I want you to give us a summary of what we have learned today about gestures. A short and sweet summary. What have we learned today about gestures? Go for it, Weston.
Thank you so much, Sarah. The big point of gestures is we're putting it into memory. Less is more. We're focusing on the memory gesture, and we're using it a lot.
Give Weston a big 10-finger woo from wherever you at. Awesome. So I'm going to go into the comments, and I will, if you're watching the replay, I will keep coming back and looking at the comments. I do get notified when new comments are left. So if you have questions about gestures, this is a great place to put it. If you haven't already gotten your book, Weston, show them the book. Second edition, Whole Brain Teaching for Challenging Kids. So many amazing strategies in there. Chapter 6 focuses all on the magic circle and really digging into what you're teaching in that 1 minute is critical. No matter if you're in pre-K or a senior advanced level AP physics class, you can use these strategies to all of your students' benefits. And more importantly, the most important thing, we're going to do a hands and eyes. This is when students lean in because something is so important. The most important thing is you can have fun again. When I teach with Whole Brain Teaching, it's fun and it's exciting and we laugh, and my students learn more, faster, with deeper retention than ever before. And that's what Teaching Heaven is all about. So thank you for joining us today. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments and we'll be answering later. And I just want to thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.